All right, that moves us to 9.1. Okay. R277304, Teacher Preparation Programs Amendment. This isn't coming out of committee, so do we have a motion? Perfect. Go ahead, Member Wood.
I move that the board approve the standards for special education program approval dated August 2024, which will then be incorporated by reference into R277304.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Several seconds. I'll give it to Straight. Straight seconded. Would you like to speak to your motion?
I would.
Okay.
So in our June meeting, the board passed a version of R277304, which removed a reference to a specific set of outdated standards and replaced it with board-approved teacher competencies. However, at that same time, we did not pass any kind of companion document with those board-approved items. Once that new rule began to be circulated among our higher ed prep programs, special education directors and teachers within the field voiced concern that we had left them without clear direction on how to move forward. So this document brings back some CEC standards. It's a 2020 version, which is not what was in our previous rule, while at the same time adding two additional standards and an additional component to support the needs of our special education stakeholders in the field. This document puts some protections in place for those with concern that we were referencing an outside entity because we were approving specifically this document. So any changes in future standards from this organization would have to be brought again to this board. It narrows the scope. We're not simply referencing standards found on a website with who knows what else is on the website, and the discussion is limited to what is in this document. It adds some additional clarification within the new component that specifically states adherence to Utah rule, and within those rules are references to our special education rules manual with 26 pages of special education definitions, which we approved last July, and our teacher ethics requirements.
Very good. Where can we find this document? Okay, so for members and members of the public, if you would like to see this document, it's available on backup. It's under 9.1 in CiviClerk. And if you have any trouble finding it, you can call our lovely assistant, Sybil, and she will help you. Or your friendly local board member. All right, I see no comments, so we will move this to a vote. Member Carey?
Yes.
Just waiting for a few more. Don't want to out you. Earl. Okay. There we go. That passes unanimously, 14-0. Thank you very much for everybody that worked really hard on that. Thank you to the field for sharing your specific concerns. That helped enormously come to a resolution that was the best. That was just that. Now you have another motion. Correct. Sorry. There you go.
I move that the board approve R277304 Teacher Preparation Programs Draft 1 on first and final reading.
Do we have a second? Second to Straight. Seeing no comments, please, we will vote. Member Carey?
Yes.
With a vote of 13-1, that passes, the no being Member Boggess. All right, Member Wood?
Yes, and because we passed this last month, we have to do a final cleanup motion.
Okay.
I move that the board direct staff to, one, not file an effective date for R277304 with the Office of Administrative Rules for the version of the rule that was approved by the board in June, and two, refile R277304 Draft 1 with OIR on or before August 15th for publication in the September 1st, 2024 bulletin.
Do we have a second? That one goes to Member Reel. Seeing no comments, please vote. Member Gary?
Yes.
Medicated, probably. One more. With a vote of 14-0, that passes unanimously. Thank you. Next up, we are at R277331, Stipends for Future Educators Amendment. I know we have some staff probably to speak to this. It addresses concerns that were raised by business administrators, teachers, and student teachers, as we heard today also in public comment. And with us is Mr. Rasmussen.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Just a little background as to why this is before the board again. This was originally passed during the June meeting. This is the rule on stipends for future educators. The rule, as was approved by the board, contains a provision that requires LEAs to treat each of the student teachers as independent contractors and pay them as 1099 independent contractors. While this came up with very little pushback before the board approved this, after this was passed by the board and put it and published, we got some feedback from business administrators that this was extremely problematic. There was one district specifically that had been audited by the IRS, and this was one of the issues, and they thought this would be a big concern. So we're recommending that the board pass a new draft to this, draft 4, which would just change that to take out the language on independent contractors. This is like the other rule, would also require a second motion to not file the effective date for that rule and to republish this in the next OAR bulletin.
Okay, first up we have Member Norton, then we have Member Bogus.
Okay, so I'd like to make the substitute motion, and then we'll have another amendment following that.
Okay.
The motion is that the board approve R277331, draft 4. Hang on. I forgot to put the title in there. Stipend for Future Educators, draft 4, on first and final reading.
Okay, do we have a second on that? Second coming from Member Wood. Would you like to speak to your motion?
I think Ben just did a great job explaining why we're changing.
Thank you. Member Bogus, and then Member Reel.
Thank you, Chair. Director Rasmussen, how does this affect URS and all of the things that are associated with that?
So these are student teachers that are not, my understanding would be that they are not in URS at this point. They're getting a grant for the work they're doing, but they're not considered employees that get those benefits from URS. So while they do pay taxes, there's no retirement benefits involved in these payments.
Okay,
Is that,
thank you.
is that good? Okay. Member Reel? Oh, do you have a follow-up? Yeah, maybe. Okay, hold on. Go for it.
When it comes to years of service, do these count toward their years of service? I understand they're not getting retirement benefits, but they will have been actively employed by a school district.
They would have to be enrolled in URS to get years of service, would be my understanding.
Okay.
Okay, Member Reel?
Thank you, Vice Chair Hart. I just wanted to talk about how wonderful this program is and how excited I am that these student teachers are being able to be paid for their work, which is work, as they work and learn. But I talked to staff after they had posted the link to accept applications for the stipends, and there was already 152 in 1 week that had applied for a stipend. So clearly there is a need, and I want to encourage our legislature to continue funding this. It's my understanding it's just funded for 1 year, and it would be great to be able to provide our future educators with a better start than coming out of college with these stipends. So. 135, okay.
I'd like to add to that. I could not major in education first in college because I had to pay my own way, and you could not have a job while you were student teaching, but yet you weren't paid for student teaching. So I had to go through another career I was a social worker for a little while and went back and got my teaching degree. So this is fantastic and wonderful and amazing. So, Member Straight?
Yes, very similar. I had to work at the cheese plant even during student teaching, and that was at night, so my day was full. And even though it was required, we just had to work, and I'm sure many had that same experience. So I think this is a wonderful program, and not only that, because you get charged tuition.
Yep.
So anyway, I'm very grateful for this and hope it continues as well.
Member Davis?
Just quickly, I just wanted to thank the legislature for this as well. I do this for my day job. I work with student teachers, and man, I could tell you so many stories about some of my students who aren't eating, who are just trying to get through those handful of months with no money coming in and wanting to do a good job on their teaching, and like taking a Christmas tree to a student who had 3 kids, had no money to buy. You know what I mean? Like, this is going to be just a really big deal for a lot of students. So thank you to those who made it possible.
Thank you. Member Wood?
I just want to speak to the draft because I was very concerned when it came to our committee as a 1099, having worked as a contract, knowing how many taxes are taken out for being your own contracting. So we're finally giving our student educators the full amount of what they deserve rather than a taxable income.
Amen. All right, and
I was
Mr.
just going to
Rasmus.
comment, this will still likely be paid with a 1099. They'll still have to pay taxes on it. We're just correcting the language so they're not classified as independent contractors. Unfortunately, there's no way to get around the taxes, so I don't want you to operate under a misconception, so I just wanted to correct that.
Yes. Yes. It's simplified, but we'll continue to try to do what we can and encourage the legislature to do so. Seeing no other comments, are we ready to vote? Okay.
I thought my hand was up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Member Carey? Yeah, go
No.
ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think Director Rasmussen may have just answered this, but the concern I thought we had as a board last time was if we take them off 1099 status, there might be school districts that are reluctant to bring them on board because then they would be responsible for all of the other benefits associated with employment status. But it sounds like Director Rasmussen said, no, there's still 1099s. We're just clarifying the language. Was that correct, Chair, if we could direct that to Director
May I respond?
Rasmussen?
Please respond.
So as I understand it, there are several types of 1099s. The independent contractor language was the concern. State Finance, I think, has indicated that they can still pay them as, I think, 1099 miscellaneous, if I understood correctly. So it's just kind of a different tax form. The educators will still receive the payment in the same way.
Okay. Does that help, Member Carey?
It does. I mean, I do agree that we should look at a different solution, but I
Right.
wasn't clear on that, so thank you.
Yep. And we'll continue to look for different solutions. I think we may have some information on apprenticeships and other pathways coming to us fairly soon. All right, so we will, with no other questions, we'll move to a vote. Board Member Carey?
Yes.
Two more, please. Double check your screen. Sarah. Brent. All right, thank you. That passes unanimously. Next, we have oh, yes, we need the cleanup motion. Thank you. That passed unanimously. Next up, Member Norton.
Okay, so similar to what Board Member Wood just did, I move that the board directs staff not to file an effective date for R277331 with the Office of Administrative Rules, OAR, for the version of R277331 that was approved by the board in June, and refer R277331 Draft 4 with OAR on or before August 15th for publication in the September 1st, 2024 bulletin.
Do we have a second? Second by Member Reel. Seeing no questions, please, we'll vote. Member Carey?
Yes.
Waiting on one. Brent, straight. That passes unanimously. Thank you.